Good morning, everyone. We are Team Apartment Me. As you can tell, we are a listing website. We serve a variety of customers. Our users are in two categories. We have listers and renters. The listers have the option to list their homes for those in need of a home. The renters, on the other hand, are able to rent a home depending on their needs and wants. We mainly focused on students, transitioning families, and travelers seeking a short stay. Next slide. After surveying 67 students around the campus, we have found that 78% had a problem locating an apartment, especially international students. Since most of the international students don't get the privilege of visiting the campus before the school year, so they don't start looking for apartments until they actually land in the country. So housing is one of the biggest concerns when you decide to study abroad, and it also gets harder if the university doesn't have dorms or dining hall. So a couple of questions pop up on most of the students' minds. So first is, where am I going to stay? And how am I going to afford living off campus? Some of the problems that we have found to concern students are cost and safety. Most of the students are on a budget, and rental costs are rising. So finding the right apartment can be difficult. Next slide. As a solution, we've built a platform that allows property renters post rentals and students discover the safest, most affordable housing units in the area. Next slide. We wanted to discover the market size. So according to the National Multifamily Housing Council, there are 43 million US households renting their units, and 37% of the renters live in apartments, meaning that we're left out with a big market scope for our company to grow. Now we're gonna move on to the demo. So we've provided the link for those who want to see the apartment live, but for presentation purposes, we have a recorded video. This is the main page of our website. You can see over here, we have a search button. If you type Shreveport, for example, you'll be able to see the apartments listed in the Shreveport area. If you go ahead and click on any apartment that you desire, for example, this apartment, you will be able to see a good visual of the apartment, pictures of the apartment, then the prices for the month if it's listed for a monthly lease, and then the name, some details, the name of the user, person who posted that apartment. You can also see the apartment on the map. You can have a good visual of the surroundings. You also have buttons on the side to see the crime map, educations, university, school, markets, and so on. You get a little bit of details about the apartment, the assets, and you get to see some reviews for that specific apartment. If you like the apartment, then you will go ahead and fill out this information over here and hit contact owner. That way you will have a channel to communicate with the owner of the apartment. If you go back on the website, you'll be able to see the featured listings. Those are the most popular apartments. And then you'll be able to see apartments in different states. So you can get to choose which state you want to look for an apartment in. And then for students, you can look for your college or university depending on the state. So if we choose California, for example, once you hit on California colleges, you'll get a list of the most popular universities in this state. And for right now, we're gonna use California, Berkeley. So those are apartments listed in the Berkeley area. Again, you will see the details of the apartment, and if you choose to go ahead and book and lease this apartment, then you can contact the owner. Now, this is what I've just explained was for the listers. Now, as a renter, if you choose to book per day, We also provide that option for students who are coming from out of the country. You also get to see a good visual of the apartment. Then you have to log in to be able to reserve a room for a short period of time. Now we're using our test user account. If you don't have an account, then obviously you're going to have to register. Once you put in your email and password and hit login, you will see you can type Shreveport, for example, as the city, and then hit back on the apartment that you desire. Get to choose the times. The ones that are scratched off are obviously booked already. So hit the guest number, and then you'll be able to see the length, the rate, and you get to see the total. Once you hit the confirm button, you've already reserved the apartment. Now, if as a lister, oh no, excuse me, this is this is a good visual to see the booking that you already have. Now, as a lister, you get to see your listings and manage them as well. So if you want to post a listing, then we've created a compact survey to fill out this information about your apartment. And this is the information that that we are going to need to have your apartment posted. If you choose to have one room booked, one room for booking, then you get to click on shared living, and then once you hit post rental, it will show on the website, and it will be available for booking. And then another feature that we have is manage listing. If you hit on the manage listing, then you will see all the apartments that you have already posted for listing on the website. You can get to delete or edit them. If you hit on the edit button, you have the option to change any of these information. And once you hit the save button, it's already saved. And that's it for the listers. And that's it for the demo. I'm gonna move it on to Bijay to talk about the tools, the development tools.
Okay, so hello all. And this website is the SPA, which is single-page application. And for the front end, we basically use React. So since we are using React, we wrote all the code in JSX syntax, which is just an XML extension of JavaScript. And for the styling purpose, we used Bootstrap on top of CSS, and we used SAS, our CSS preprocessor, just to maintain clean and consistent CSS code. And similarly, we followed ES6 standard convention to write our JavaScript code. Now, the reason for choosing React is React uses virtual DOM. That means it will only render the updated component instead of rendering the whole page. So this will allow very smooth transitioning in the website, and the client browser will not be loaded, heavily loaded, and they will have very smooth browsing experience. And that's what we want. And also React uses component system. That means we can reuse our code again and again. And this helped a lot to maintain our code. And another big reason for using React is we're gonna make mobile application in the future, obviously, because mobile application is most popular than a web application itself. And in this case, if we decided to use React Native, then we can share almost 80% of our JavaScript code. That means our mobile application development time will speed up very quickly. And for the data, our website has a lot of data like user data and apartment data, and state management is very crucial. And for this reason, we decided to use Redux for state management, which is very good handling like complex application like ours. So now let's move to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about backend. So we decided to write our backend code using JavaScript. So both front end and back end is written in JavaScript, and we use Node.js, which is just a cross-platform runtime JavaScript environment. And we have used Express as our backend framework. And talking about database, we decided to use MongoDB. So the reason for using MongoDB is our data over here is kind of loosely coupled. That means, like, for example, one apartment is completely independent of another apartment. And our data design may change over time. That means like more requirement may evolve later. So designing the data model at the beginning was not that ideal. And that's why we decided to choose MongoDB. And since MongoDB doesn't use any relational tables or joins, it will obviously speed up data processing time. That's why non-relational database like MongoDB was preferred in this case. And moving to our architectural design, on next slide, we used Heroku to build and deploy our application. And we have used GitHub as our source control. So when developers, they write the code and they push it to GitHub and merge it to GitHub master branch, Heroku will automatically detect the change and it will start the build process. Now, after the successful build, it will run through the couple of tests that we have defined. And in any case, if the test fails, it will notify us and we'll change the code, we'll fix the error and bugs. But if everything passes, it will just deploy the application. Now, since we are using MongoDB, the ideal place to store our data is Mongo Lab, which is just storage in a cloud. And on top of the Mongo Lab, we are using Amazon S3 bucket to store our data. So the reason for having two separate data storage is our website allows users to upload a lot of images. So we don't want to store all the images and all the data together and make our data storage overcrowded. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna store all the images to S3 bucket, and we're gonna just store the reference of those images in Mongo Lab. That way, like our main data storage will be less crowded, and we can have like clean data storage. So that's the reason for using separate data storage. And basically, Heroku will be handling all the HTTP requests that the client will send using our browser through the internet gateway. And basically, our application is based on RESTful API. And for any user who wants to visit our website, Heroku will take care of the rest. And this is our architectural design. And now moving to the next slide, Kenisha will be talking about roadmap and our business.
So with our roadmap, we broke it down into different quarters. We broke it down into 5 different quarters. So our first quarter, which we're in right now, we're getting ready to go to market. We're getting ready to launch our product. We're working on trying to research because we learned that there's a lot of uh, legal background that has to come with renting per day. So we're trying to learn the legal entities of everything. By quarter two, especially, well, we are expecting that a lot of students will come into the Shreveport Bossier area by the fall of 2020. And when I say a lot of students, we're not just looking at LSUS, we're trying to branch off into college campuses such as Southern and BIPSI as well. And by quarter three, we want to begin to reach those upperclassmen, people that are already established here in Shreveport who still need help to find a place or need help to get a place to live. By quarter four, we want to begin to develop our partnerships. By gaining these partnerships, we can also branch off into different markets, and I'll talk about that a little later. And by quarter five, with those partnerships that we gained through quarter four, we want to begin to migrate to new campuses and new areas. Going on, I'm going to talk about our market strategies. So as I said before, we plan on going to new cities. Why stop here in Shreveport Bossier? We want to expand ourselves to go as far as California. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with while building partnerships with different marketing firms and firms that we can build those and grow. So the next thing is that we're going to talk about the different business ventures. So one of the different business ventures found out is that when we start working with these firms, we learn a lot. We learned that a lot of these people also have commercial properties. So we're going to start building on that and using our website to kind of help businesses as well get into the commercial aspect of everything. So of course we have some future partners that we want to work with to actually get into these markets. UL Coleman, we all know, is very big here in the Shreveport, Bossier area. The Key is down in Lafayette in the UL campus, and these others are in various locations such as Houston, Monroe, and Natchitoches, of course. These college towns that are local to us. So growth, we want to grow tremendously within the next 5 years. When I say growth, it's going to cost a lot for us to grow. Some of the things that we're factoring into our growth include getting a home office, getting people set up for help desk. We want the help desk people so that they can understand the system. We can train them. If they have issues, they can, a realtor can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm having trouble. Can you help me? We want to get all that started, as well as moving some of our data from off this cloud, because you never know what can happen. I know, moving it on-prem so that we can have it a location set and we can actually host our own stuff. So that's kind of what our growth is. So we actually had a subset of users go into our systems. They are both property managers, and we also had a few renters that went into our system, and they really enjoyed it. They really liked it. Some things that we found key points from our renters was the ease of access that they had. The renters were able to easily access the website, and they really liked the features that we have showing apartments near the colleges. And one of the renters said that it's really nice because she does not know the Bossier City area, and she was getting ready to book an apartment by 220 instead of I-20, which she really needed access to I-20 every day. And then the property managers, compared to some of the other sites such as Z Willow and Apartments, they really liked the cost that we had associated with our product. We were going to allow them to use our product for $100 a month per listing, as compared to some of the stuff they pay, which is like $300 for some of these renters pay on up for other websites. They also like that we have a feature that we're going to try to launch for them. It's called a point system. So if you rent 5 apartments with us, that's 50 points, and it'll bring down the cost, and it'll allow those underprivileged renters to get into our system as well and kind of understand and use it to list their properties. So this is our team. We have Bijay, the data administrator. We have Lujien, who's our business analyst. Myself, who is our financial analyst. And then we just want to thank you all. Make sure you give us some great feedback on our presentation. We really appreciate everyone coming out and listening to us. Thank you all again, and have a great one.
So I'm noticing a couple of questions in the Q&A section. Let's start with the first one. Apartment Me team, have you considered adding information about nearby grocery stores, public transportation, bicycle routes? I think we already have the grocery stores embedded into our map. However, we're probably going to consider public transportation and bicycle routes for future plans. And another question, what measures are you taking to ensure end user security, both the renter security and property owner security?
Okay, for that question, yeah, security is obviously important. Like, it deals with a lot of data. And we're looking at a couple of options, but we haven't decided which one to use yet. And when it comes with like public data and everything, a lot of legal things comes to concern, and we have to go through step by step. So like after we understand all the legal matters and everything, and at that point, like we're gonna be dealing with the security things. So this security is kind of serious matter. So like we're thinking about it kind of deeply.
Next question. What was the biggest technical challenge for the team?
I think the biggest technical challenge was it's only 3 of us. This website is massive. So that's the biggest challenge, is just having a small development team, as well as we also have to branch off into do research in other areas. So I think that's one of the hugest technical, it's just the size of the manpower that we have.
Next question. Dr. Alam, he asked, as you perhaps know, the MongoDB is an instant of a NoSQL database. My first question is why you have chosen NoSQL database instead of a SQL database? Bijay, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Basically, like our data schema, like we do not want to predefine it. Like we do not want to predefine our tables and everything, because on our website, data requirements, they might evolve more and more later. I mean, for let's say some customer, they want to have different attributes to be posted in our website. And for that reason, we don't want to have predefined data, like data model or data design. And that's why we decided to go for NoSQL. And since we are not heavily depending on the transaction, like monitor transaction or other transaction, I don't think we have to go for MySQL database in this case.
Team, we have time for one more question and then we'll have to move on.
Okay, so the next question is from the Q&A chat. Is there a payment processing system built in at this time for those that will pay to have their property listed?
Okay. Let me answer that. Okay, we have built a Stripe payment. We have integrated Stripe. Yeah, we were confused to whether use PayPal or Stripe, but we went with Stripe. And we will only deploy this thing after we ensure like all our data and security measure is very like reliable. And after that, we will move on to the implementing this payment process.
All right, great presentation.
I'll go ahead and start for Stealthwall. Thank everyone for joining us today. My project was done with Jonathan and Blake. There it goes. All right, so as many of you know, Windows operating system is the #1 used operating system throughout the world for desktops. It stands at about 76% market share as of April 2020. That's something that we don't see changing in the future. It has a lot of great features that we've come to know and love. With the advent of Windows 8, it was kind of mixed some of the changes they had in there, but one thing that some people seem to enjoy was the tile system for the panels as opposed to a desktop approach, which lent itself to a more user-friendly GUI. To that end, we feel like some of the other controls and control panels in Windows aren't incredibly user-friendly. One specifically is the firewall and the ability to manage internet access for your programs. So that's where Stealthwall comes in. Stealthwall is a simplified way to control your program's access to the internet. And to that end, we've built it with accessibility and ease of use in mind. It's incredibly lightweight and doesn't have to run all the time. And it's something that we found to be very reliable as it utilizes and interfaces with Windows Firewall. It's machine independent, so it can run on any version of Windows, both 32 and 64-bit. And our model for it is very cost effective, as Blake will speak to later, both from a development standpoint and the fact that the program itself is essentially free to use. As for the development stack and how we went about making Stealthwall, we've used basically the Azure DevOps and Microsoft Suite for the entirety of the project, with an exception of using Discord for communication. Visual Studio 2019 actually has a new feature for screen sharing whenever you're programming inside of it. So you can actually do paired programming inside of Visual Studio. Automated deployment, testing, and our burn downs were done through Azure DevOps. All of that is consolidated into one place and is very easy to use. For our methodology, we chose Agile as we have a very small team and we have a very focused product. So we went with Agile again for our testing methodology, opting to have an incremental approach in which we simulated Blake as our product owner, and therefore he was responsible for product testing and getting feedback for the product. And we would have sprints, after which we would get feedback from Blake, and we would implement features that were requested by users. This allowed us to quickly innovate and change the product. For our roles in the team, as I mentioned, Blake was a simulated product owner, as well as responsible for product testing and feedback as far as a marketing perspective is concerned. He also developed the website. Jonathan was responsible for the back end as well as QA, and I was responsible for the front end and QA as well. Moving on to the business model, I'll hand things over to Blake to where he can speak about that.
Thank you, Justin. So the business model. So first I thought maybe we should mark our product as donationware. This would allow users to pay what they wanted for our product. They could either use it for free, or if they felt generous, they could donate any sum of money they wanted to. The next thing I thought of was website AdSense. Now we could have ads on our website, you know, typically like kind of banner advertisements on the top, on the sides, on the bottom. And this would, you know, when our product becomes bigger, it would generate some more revenue for it. And if these two weren't to work so well, Patreon would be a good idea, or some other similar service. We could have tier rewards for our Patreon, and those tiered rewards could see like blogs, forums, you know, updates on our product, and actually have beta access to what we're working on in the product in the future. So they could test it out, see what's wrong, see the bugs, you know, maybe some design flaws, and just go from there and just give us some good feedback on it. And another thing is maybe just YouTube sponsorships. We could have, you know, a pop-up ad on a YouTube video kind of tagged under kind of something similar to our product, like some video about internet protocol or computer science or something. And that would help kind of get our product out there as well. And now I'm going to move on to our website design. I decided to go with Azure Web Application since we're already going with Azure DevOps. This was great, so we didn't have to make a new account or anything. We could just simply use our same account, go from there, and it was just easy and reliable. And it was also free for students. This really helped us out, and it was just great. And everything was created in Visual Studio, just like the product. I was able to create the website in Visual Studio, and that it just worked really well. I was able to publish it from Visual Studio. Just everything went really well. And so the bug testing and user feedback. So I'm going to move on to the website if I can. Okay. Well, I can't seem to get to the website, but basically the website has, it just has an about page. It just shows, you know, what Stealthwall is about and its updates. It has the logo and everything, and it has the download link. Then it has an about section about, you know, us, the developers, who we are, how we kind of, how we provide it to the product and everything. And then it has this feedback section, as you can see here. It has 5 different areas, text areas where you fill out, and with that you can give us feedback. And how this works is when you click the submit button, everything is put into an array, and then everything is sent to a Google Sheet using a script, and everything is divided accordingly into the Google Sheet, you know, the name, the email, the birthday, the country, and the feedback. And after that, everything is sent to an email address I have created for Stealthwall. And this is great because we're able to get instant updates on feedback we've gotten. I can immediately see, you know, hey, this person says this is not working or this design flaw. And it's just great for user feedback. And here are some examples of great feedback I've gotten and that we're implementing and have implemented into our project. So the first one stated that the resizing didn't work. You know, we weren't able to resize the program properly. Everything was messing up when they resized when you maximize the program, it wouldn't work correctly. So that was one of the main things we kind of implemented first because it was causing a lot of people problems. And then the second feedback we got, somebody's talking about kind of how, you know, the scheduler isn't really user friendly and sometimes it doesn't block correctly or unblock correctly, my bad. And this is the next thing we're going to try and implement into our product is get a better scheduling system. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Blake. So this is our architectural diagram right here. As you can see, we have 4 parts. We have the website that Blake has mentioned earlier. Currently, as far as this is concerned, it is just for downloading the product. Then next in this list is our GUI application. That is our main application where our users would be able to interact with the program and tell it what to do and stuff. We have a flat file save, which I will explain the purpose of later. And the last thing on our list is, of course, Windows Firewall. Now, when we were going about implementing this product, we weren't exactly sure which route we wanted to take because there were many different ways you can block a program's access. For instance, we could have set up a VPN server that would do selective trafficking. Same thing with a proxy server. We could have also done a Windows service that would have done all this in the background for us. But in the end, we landed on Windows Firewall because Windows Firewall has the capability to do this blocking and unblocking. It was just not very user-friendly, as Justin had mentioned. So that's what we stick with in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and demo the product. I'm going to go pull up the website. If you were to scroll down on the bottom, you would see our download button. So we can download the product and we can try it out. We're just going to give it a little bit to, here we go. So here's our application. I'm going to download it. Now, it is a zip file because there's a lot of dependencies and DLL extensions that StealthWall relies on. So what we would do is we would drag it to a folder of your choice and we would extract the product. So I'm going to go ahead and extract it. It's going to take a little bit. And here we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and run StealthWall. Now, Zoom is not going to show this, but on my screen, there is currently a prompt for allow this program to make changes to my computer. And that is because in order to interact with the firewall and tell the firewall what we want it to do, we're going to need elevated or administrator privileges. So I'm going to click yes, and I'm going to give it administrative privileges. It takes a bit, and then it loads. So this is our product, StealthWall. I'm going to maximize it to make it easier for everyone to see. As you can see, we have this nice little table here. Now this table is a list of all programs that are currently active right now. As you can see, we have Firefox, we have Zoom, we have Explorer. And what we can do is we can click one of these programs, for example, Firefox, and we can choose to block it or unblock it. Right now, Firefox is not blocked. And I'm going to demonstrate this by doing a Google search. So as you can see, the search loads correctly. Now we are going to block Firefox. So if we click our block button, we're going to get a notification. It says Firefox is blocked. It tells us our path of the exact path to the Firefox application of what is blocked. So I'm going to do another search. And as you will see, Firefox is no longer able to connect to the internet. It says it's unable to connect. It can't load anything. Our application works. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate on our next tab that we have Firefox as one of the entries in this list. Now, I might be wondering what this list is. If you were to hover over this tab, it would tell you this is our block list. It is a list of all applications that StealthWall currently has for block. As you can see, Firefox is one of them. If we were to click Explore and add to the list as well, it would show up, and so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and unblock both of these, unblock and unblock. And as you can tell, it tells me the Firefox has been unblocked. So when I refresh this, it will load the search just as fine as before. Now, we have two more tabs here. We have the history tab. It shows all of our current actions, everything we've done in the entirety of StealthWall. And this is where that flat file save comes in. It keeps a list of everything we blocked and unblocked. So it's sort of like it's a history for you to look at. The last tab we have is the scheduler. And as you right now, as Blake and Justin have mentioned, this is a work in progress. The functionality is there, but we really lack the user friendliness because we do not have a calendar system in place or any other extra date features that would allow our users to, if user friendly anyway, choose when they want to block the application. Along with that flat file save I mentioned earlier, StealthWall will also keep track of what you've blocked and unblocked through reloads. So if I block Firefox right now, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to demonstrate that it is blocked, and then I'm going to close out of the application. And if I refresh, it is still blocked. StealthWall will keep the application blocked even when StealthWall is not active. And if I were to reload StealthWall, give it admin privileges, just going to wait a bit. There you go. And it would show up that Firefox is still blocked. As you can see, the flat file save is used to keep track of what is blocked, what is not blocked, when and why you did it. And so that is our product. Thank you for watching. We're going to go ahead and answer questions now.
Okay, so I see we have a question here. Would showing your bugs essentially be creating a security risk for the product? Jonathan, do you think you could answer that?
Yes. In a way, it could be. However, this product doesn't actually do any internet connection of its own. So yes, you could potentially exploit bugs, but for the way StealthWall works, you would only be exploiting bugs on your own device. You wouldn't be exploiting it for anyone else. We don't have any logins or databases that store passwords or anything. So we don't have any real security risk for other people outside of your own device.
Okay, so we have a question about maintaining the cost for further developing the website to see if the fundraising options you listed will be sufficient. Basically, the cost of Visual Studio would be $45 a month, and website hosting would be $10 a month, and our salary, that could range anywhere between, I don't know, $15 an hour to $20 an hour, something in that general range. So I think in the future, that would be, we'd have to see like if those methods would work, and then if they don't, we'd have to kind of plan out something different. So another question I see is how easily could StealthWall be hacked? Jonathan, do you think you could answer that as well?
So you could right now there was another question earlier about or later about the flat file save. So right now StealthWall doesn't have any encryption protocols or security on those flat files. As I said earlier, this is a product that's specifically for each user. So while technically you could probably hack StealthWall, it doesn't pose any major security risk for other users, as again, these are all local, they all pertain to your own computers, and we don't have any login system for you to hack or work with. So Heather also asked, could you operate StealthWall remotely to control another computer that you are an administrator for? Yes, actually, you could. If you have mouse and keyboard control, and assuming that you are an administrator of that other computer, you could in fact operate it remotely, but only if StealthWall is installed on that remote computer. So Barney also asked, can you unblock a program from the block list tab itself, or do you have to use the main program list screen to unblock? Currently, you do have to go back to the main program list screen to unblock it. In the future, we are going to put the unblock and block button on the list itself for better convenience. So that is a good question. Thank you, Barney. So Tommy, you asked, the flat file tracks what is blocked and not blocked. What sort of security protections exist for that file? As I answered earlier, currently we don't have security encryption in place. We can in the future add some sort of possible encryption, but right now we don't see much real risk on StealthWall, given that it's only for a local computer.
And that's a good thing for feedback. That's something we can implement in the future for our product.
So Roger asks, can you block Stealth Wall itself? Yes, actually, you can. Stealth Wall doesn't do any internet activity on its own currently. So while you couldn't block Stealth Wall itself, it wouldn't serve much purpose. Kevin asks, have you considered localizing the app in order for others who speak other languages can understand what they're doing? Yes, we haven't, unfortunately, we haven't gotten around to that yet, but in the future, if anyone contributes any localization text for us to work with, or if we could find someone who does natively speak that language to help us make other languages for our program, we would be glad to implement those.
All right, team, time for one more question, and then we'll cut it off.
Okay. Levy asked, is there a Windows service running in the background? No, we were considering that at the very beginning, but like I said in the presentation, we stuck with Windows Firewall for simplicity and the fact that the Windows Firewall already has the capability to do this blocking. So to answer your question, there is no service running in the background. Once you close out Stealth Wall, it's closed. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. ZoneCam is a project that was created by Aaron, Isaiah, and myself. Next slide. And essentially, it's a video capture system. It was mainly for high school coaches to actually capture video while their team is playing. And initially, you have to have either a member of your staff actually running the camera, or train someone else to actually run the camera itself. And we thought that there should be a way to actually automate this. Next slide. Okay, how it works. There's a camera assembly that's you'll wind up actually setting up either in the end zone or some other advantageous location to where you'd be able to see there you want to record. And the camera assembly would then be turned on and the system would initialize. And from your iPad or other iOS device, you connect to a private network, which is actually housed in the camera assembly. And using that software on the iOS, you could, in real time, either do a record, zoom, tilt and pan to control the camera. And all your captured video would be sent to your iOS device. Next slide. Okay, like I said, it actually consists of two components: your software application, which will be on your iOS device, and camera housing assembly, which we'll get into later. Next slide. Okay, for the application capabilities. Okay, for the application capabilities of the software, like again, you can either record video, use it to control the camera assembly, and it is iOS based. Next slide. And in the future, we wanted to have the ability to automatically record, for instance, not record when players are coming on and off the field, but actually when they're actually set up to, for a play, essentially have it record just the snippet from right around the beginning of the play to the end of the play. For video capture, we want to make sure that it still works with the high definition video, because as it progresses, I know they're going to want to have the higher video, and that's going to require more processing power on our end to be able to stream it to their devices. And we're also wanting to have the ability to set parameters and restrictions for the video capture. For instance, if you want to zoom in on just a few players and have them follow just those players as a play develops, We want them to be able to have that also. Next slide. And I'll go ahead and turn this over to Isaiah.
Okay, so the reason for the iOS app is so that when the game starts and the camera stand, for whatever reason, whatever position it's pointing to, we need to be able to also have an app that can adjust it to the right position. So we don't want, like you can see in the second image of the slide, we don't want it facing the fans, because it would make the whole machine algorithm fail if it's facing the fans instead of the players, because it will recognize the fans as also human beings. So it will stay with them and just follow their movement instead of following the players' movement. So we needed an app that can also be manually used to adjust the position of the camera. And also just in general for human control, an app is needed as well. So just no matter the automation that goes on, you also want human control to be present. Even self-driving cars, they still have their manual controls and all that stuff. Next slide. So for the iOS app, I use Swift basically because of better performance. It's native to Apple products. Is native, and it's easily readable. It's easy to maintain, and it's a safer platform in general. So that's why I went on with Swift. Next slide. Next slide. So basically, how the app should work is, it focuses on the field, and you just use it to this. I must say, this is not our main product, so this is just like a backup, to our main product. So it's just to assist for manual positioning, just when needed, actually. So the app actually came along late into our development. We just needed some manual control as well. So that's so how it works is just whatever direction you move it goes, the camera follows. So next slide. So our limitation for this especially for the app is because the app is supposed to be connected to the same network with the the main application, and because we couldn't meet, we couldn't test the app properly. We couldn't complete the development of the app actually. So and this was due to the fact that we couldn't meet in school, and there's a lockdown in town, and that's just the limitation for our main limitation for completing the app. And also it's a small team as well, so but this is our main challenge. We could have gotten something more out of it. Next slide.
All right, so one of the hardest things about doing this project was actually controlling our development variables. So because we're doing much of a hardware-based solution instead of like a software-based solution, it was kind of slower for us to like iterate through our improvements, because to do hardware, you have to like go buy new equipment or go like recut things just to make it all fit. And sometimes costs can kind of get out of hand. For the development costs, just to develop the turret to where it is currently costed me about almost $500 just to like buy new equipment and make new cuts, but it's still cheaper than trying to go buy or get a pre-made solution. Unfortunately, one of the biggest sidetracks to our project was just the whole COVID-19 situation, because it kind of really threw a big wrench into our plans. So the business model that we came up with was that we're going to sell this product as more of an entry level object, so that way we could get coaches to maybe use different services with us because just buying a one-time object really isn't really sustainable for a business. But if we can actually just use the turret as like a little entry, then we can actually sell them more products that are actually profitable. So that's why it was one of our big things is we wanted it to work with like the current equipment, because most coaches right now, they have an iPad and they already have their own cameras. The main problem is they can't always find a cameraman to actually film the games. So our roadmap kind of went basically like this. We would just kind of do our early prototype, like find our different algorithms and just kind of test them out to see what would work. And then we were trying move on to like our actual hardware and integration. And in the future, we were just planning on making like basic UI updates after we got like real feedback back, or like just optimizing the software. So one of the most important things for this project was doing the object detection, because you have to know where in the video the football players are to where you need to move the camera. So because we didn't want to connect it to the internet, because out in the field you're not always going to have an internet connection, we had to do it with some light computing. So what we had was one Raspberry Pi that was taking a video feed from a capture card using OpenCV, and then it pushed that to something called a Google Coral, and that is a Google Coral is just a little extra small computer that runs the Google TensorFlow Lite model, and using that we were able to use something called the YOLO algorithm to actually detect the players. So here's a quick video example. One of the hardest things was actually just training a new object detector, because usually most object detectors are actually really bad at detecting football players, because they don't really look like normal humans, because they have all this extra gear on them. So a lot of the object detectors that I tried didn't really work well at all. So what I ended up having to do is getting the YOLO, one of the basic YOLO implementations, and just doing a little bit of transfer learning to make it to where like it can actually confidently find the football players. So the next basic part was actually making the turret. The goals of it were to make it be able to take like pretty large cameras while still having a large range of movements. So you can kind of see that's the camera, one of the cameras that I can take. And it worked pretty well, but to actually control it was kind of roundabout, because what we had was two Pis. One Pi was taking all the different inputs and actually doing all the computing to find where the turret should move. And then the next Pi was actually hosting the network, which then talked to the Arduino, which talked to the motor controls, which actually controlled the turret. And then if some fine tuning was needed, iPad could be connected to the broadcasted network to actually fine tune the movements or turn the algorithm off or turn it back on. So that way the coach could actually get what he wanted. So here is the current prototype that I've been working on for the turret. This is actually my third one that I've made so far. The first two weren't really that good. I've learned a lot about designing stuff. Like the second turret design didn't have big enough motors, so what ended up happening, if I put like a big camera on there, it couldn't actually hold the camera up, and the camera would come down and bump the bottom, and I accidentally almost scratched the lens on a camera, and that was very fun. So yeah. And the next thing is we still do kind of have some camera restrictions. We try to incorporate as many cameras as possible. The camera can't be over 4 pounds. If it's over 4 pounds, the turret just can't move smoothly at all. It has to be able to output a stream somehow, either through a DSLR output or through an HDMI output or through a web streaming. Some actually are kind of nice like that. And it has to have a 1/4-20 thread. And that's just so it can lock into the bottom of the camera mount so it doesn't actually fall off, and needs to have built-in zoom, because if it has a mechanical zoom, we don't have anything to actually turn or focus the lens. So because of the whole COVID-19 situation, I wasn't able to go out and film try this on a real football game or on anybody else. But here's the turret just kind of working in my neighbor's backyard, just tracking me along. As you can see, it does a pretty good job of like keeping me in the center of the screen. And yeah, this is pretty much how it is outside. I will now show us just a quick example of it working inside my house if you guys want to see it, I guess. So that way you can see how well it works. So this is inside my house right now, and as you can see, this is me right here. Currently how I have it set up is I'm just kind of streaming to a Flash web server so that we can have something to demonstrate. And I'm just going to turn on a really simple tracking algorithm so you can actually see how it works tracking me. So I'm kind of really close to the camera right now, so it kind of moves kind of fast. But you can see it actually works pretty smoothly in tracking me. And if there are any questions, this is the end of our presentation. All right.
As you look at Q&A, don't forget there's some in the chat as well.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll start with this first question. Is there future development for Androids or Windows? We didn't plan on it because most coaches, they had just an iPad and this is just made directly for them. We can always export the output to its own little website, but that takes up more resources that are kind of strained on the edge devices. So we would like to avoid doing that because right now we just want to focus on like what most of our customers will use, and that would be like an iPad app. So we would probably not develop anything for Android or Windows. Who's the target consumer for this product? What elements of security are you putting into this product? By Kevin Knowlton. The target consumer for this product is just going to be like coaches that are in a small school that don't quite have the faculty or money to always hire a cameraman to record the games, but it's always kind of hard to find a parent to do that correctly. And currently, there is no security on this product. We might add some later in future updates, but currently, because this is such a niche thing where you have to target the game where the Pi is actually sending out the signal and then connecting and then attacking the ports, it's not our greatest concern for the security. What are you using to get the video signal into the Raspberry Pi? By John Macy. So to get the video into the Raspberry Pi, you can use a capture card to input the video and then just use OpenCV to capture the frame. And that's currently what I've been using on it. And Andrew Rogers asks, will people buy the product with or without the camera on top after the price of the product have been determined? Okay, so the price of the product at a minimum is probably going to have to be around $500 to $600 just because of the manufacturing costs, and you still have to turn a profit on it. So that's why. But the thing is that's a one-time cost, so you can't really sustain a company on just selling them once. So that's why it's really important for us to develop future products that coaches would find valuable to actually sustain a company. And if people would buy with the camera, we would sell that option if they wanted the camera, but the goal was that they could use their own camera with the system, so they wouldn't have to go buy like our own proprietary camera. So that way we could market it to like more of the low-end school because they don't really have that much money to go buy a lot of new equipment. did you try using a motion camera like a baby monitor or WYZE? I tried, so I didn't try either of those products in particular, but one of the problems with our project is that we have to follow a group of people. And that's why we kind of wanted the object detection, is so we could determine how many people were in that group, so we could focus on the most important, and it would actually track the group as it was moving instead of just one individual player. It's a max or min resolution that can process, or ideal video resolution for it to work smoothly. Actually went, oh, sorry. Did somebody say something? Oh, okay. Ideally, okay, so how it works is that currently the video is actually recorded onto the camera itself, but if it has like a DSLR output or HDMI output, it gets sent to the Pi. And what the Pi does is that it reduces that from like whatever size it is to about 600 pixels, because processing like a really large video format just takes too much computing resources. So usually the max resolution that I'm working with when I'm like actually doing object detection is usually around 600 pixels by 600, and that's just to find the objects, and then it tells the turret where to actually point the turret, but the camera is still actually recording the whole game, so it's still being recorded in its full resolution.
Hey guys, we have time for one more question. I want to make sure we get the poll done before everyone drops off. So,
okay. Will you market just to the sports community? Currently, that's just a plan, because it's kind of built to where it just follows groups around, and we've been kind of just targeting the really niche football group, because it's going to be in the end zone. And what it does is it tracks like large groups of the players after they do the snap on like a football play. That way, it can actually just follow them along. Okay.